Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Weird Sports Show, hosted by me, Nick Fouts. And for the fourth episode today, we are breaking down some weird bracket facts from after the NCAA March Madness tournament. And now that it's officially done, I'm getting you prepared for next year, from a year from now, or a little bit less than a year from now. And I'm just gonna dive into some weird facts and how to predict a perfect bracket and what are the odds of it, and also just what statistics can lead you in the right direction of winning your bracket pool next year. And that's what we're gonna dive into. So, national championship was last night. Michigan beat UConn 69-63, and they had a very dominant run. This is the first game they actually didn't score 90 points, but they had a very dominant run and basically had control of the whole game and didn't make a lot of threes, but they still won the game. But I wanted to talk to you about the weird statistics and stuff to know next year when you're filling out your bracket and try to get the perfect bracket or just try to win your pool. And so let's dive into it. The odds of having a perfect bracket are absurd. And that's why it's a very weird episode, because it's 1 in 9.2 quintillion. Now, I can't really fathom those numbers. That doesn't really seem real to me, and it barely is. But here's some numbers that can kind of put it into perspective. So there are 31.6 million seconds in a year. So there's 9.2 quintillion seconds is a quick 292 billion years. So, yeah, that's ridiculous. So your odds of getting a perfect bracket are even more ridiculous than they seem. There are about 5 trillion days since the Big Bang. So to repeat the entire history of our universe 1.8 million times is that same ratio to have a perfect bracket. So there's 63 games in March Madness for you to have a perfect bracket. So you have to get 63 games right. And these are the odds, and that's why it's so crazy. The Earth's circumference is approximately 1.58 billion inches. So you have to walk around the planet 5.8 billion times to get that, to equal that ratio. And as of 2015, there are about 3 trillion trees on planet Earth. And that's about the estimate. So that also puts it into perspective, because you think there's almost an infinite amount of trees, but there's actually less. There's more likely to encounter a tree than to have a perfect bracket. There's obviously 1 in 9.2 quintillion is ridiculous. But anyway, you're definitely not going to get, not definitely not, but you're definitely not going to get the perfect bracket. They have the $1 billion people will give you $1 billion if you get it. Those companies know it's not going to happen. There's no way it's going to happen. But at least if you're in a bracket pool, some of these tips and statistics can help you maybe win next year. I certainly got 12th. I was pissed. I was pissed off. And, it happens. And I haven't won in a while. So I'm a little butthurt. But anyway, the point is, these statistics can help, and maybe I'll actually listen to these statistics, not just go with my heart and what I want, and actually look into it. So here we go. Getting a perfect bracket is too difficult, so you got to win your bracket pool. And here's some stats. The highest seed to win the national championship ever was 1985 Villanova, and they were an 8 seed. So right there, that eliminates a ton of the field. So there you go. In the last 10 years, the champion has been either a 1 seed or a Big East team like Villanova and UConn. So UConn has won as a 4 seed, for example. Villanova's won as a 2. But then they both have won as 1 seeds. So basically, you're most likely going to choose a team that's a 1 seed, and you stick with it. Now, which 1 seed, you never know. Normally, the 1 seeds are in the Final Four, but not all of them. Only twice has that happened. In 2008 and 2025, all 4 1 seeds have gotten to the Final Four. So normally there's one region where something crazy happens. For example, like a UMBC beats Virginia, or Purdue loses to Fairleigh Dickinson, or, for example, this year, Florida loses to Iowa, 9-seed Iowa, and gets upset in the second round. Like, there was 3 1-seeds this year, Michigan, Arizona, and actually, no, 2, excuse me. There's 2 1-seeds this year, Michigan, Arizona, and then there's UConn as a 2 and Illinois as a 3. So it wasn't as chalky as it was the year before, but it was pretty close. Illinois and UConn were contenders all year, and debatably could have been on the 1 to 2 seed line anyway. Other than the 1 seeds, 2, 3, and 4 seeds have made the Final Four combined 68 times, which is equal to the amount the number 1 seeds have. And there's some other interesting facts as well. So 5 seeds have made the Final Four 9 times, and 6 seeds have made 3, 7, 3, 8, 6, 9, 2, and 10 seeds only made it once, and that was Syracuse in, I believe, 2017. And also 11 seeds have made it 6 times, and the most recent was UCLA in the bubble in 2021. They made it to the Final Four and almost made it to the national championship game, but unfortunately for them, they lost to Gonzaga on a buzzer beater in overtime by Jalen Suggs. So normally, double-digit seeds are not the way to go to the Final Four. Yeah, you can pick them to win a couple games, and maybe they can get to the Elite Eight. Maybe they can get to the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight. But most likely, they're not going to get there. And normally, a first 4 team that's normally an 11 or a 10 seed gets to the Sweet 16 or at least wins a game. For example, this year, Texas, they were a first 4 team. They got to the Sweet 16 and lost to Purdue in close fashion. But the moral of the story is Cinderellas are fun, but don't make them go to the Final Four if you want to win your bracket, because that is most likely not going to happen. And it's only happened 7 times that a double-digit seed has gone there. And that's what I normally consider a Cinderella, is basically a double-digit seed. Or there are other schools that, maybe, like Texas wasn't really a Cinderella this year, but there's schools like, High Point that got almost beat Arkansas in the second round. Like, they would have been a Cinderella because they only have basketball. They don't really have a lot of other sports that are Division 1 or that high of Division 1. And normally, number 1 seeds have been national champs 27 times. 2 seeds have been 5 times. 3, 4 times for the 3 seed. 4 seeds 2 times. But basically, the moral of the story is top 4 seeds you're normally going to have in the Final Four, and some even maybe win the national championship. For example, like 2023 was a weird year where you had San Diego State, who was a 5 seed, I believe. Then you had, Florida Atlantic was a 9, and then you had Miami, who was a 5 seed as well, I believe, 4 or 5 seed. And then UConn was a 4, and UConn ended up winning the national championship that year. So when you're going through the Final Four and you want to pick your teams, normally 1 seeds are the goal. 1 through 4 are the most likely. 1 seeds are normally the national champion. Now, if you want to go more of a fun route, which I know a lot of people do this strategy, I personally don't, but maybe I might start doing this because, frankly, watching the whole year of college basketball can be really tough sometimes because it's a lot of time commitment, but it's also doesn't mean I really know shit for the March Madness, which is hilarious. So, colors and mascots wise for picking is an interesting strategy. People have done it, and a lot of the blue bloods have won in the last several years, and a lot of them literally have blue in their colors. Michigan this year, they have blue as one of their primary colors. Florida has blue in one of their primary colors. UConn. So normally blue is going to be in the national championship or win it. And they're going to win it. like UConn, Kansas, Duke, North Carolina, Florida, a lot of them. And in the last 30 years, it's mostly been teams that have blue as one of their primary colors are going to win the national championship. Now, there has been some exceptions in the last 30 years. For example, Louisville in 2013, they won, even though their title got exempted for off-the-court reasons. They won in 2013. They're all red. Michigan State has green and white. They're in 2000. Baylor in 2021, green and gold. And Maryland, red and black primarily, and yellow in 2002. And then Syracuse, orange and blue. So they're kind of a little of a mix, but Syracuse also had a little bit of blue, but they can be put on the orange because they're the Syracuse orange, literally. Animals-wise, for picking, dogs are 52%, have a 52% win percentage in the NCAA tournament. So UConn, Butler, for example, for back in the day, and there's others. UConn, the Bulldogs and Huskies. I've had a lot of success, and like teams like that normally are dogs have the best win percentage. Cats, for example, like Arizona, Kentucky, I guess, like NC State, they're Wolfpack, so they're putting the dogs. But there's other teams that have been very successful in the tournaments that are Cats. Arizona and Kentucky are the ones that come to mind. Now, other types of mascots, normally like fierce mascots are like Spartans, Blue Devils, Tigers, Bears. Well, so Tigers would be put in that. Auburn, for example, from recent memory. And then Bears, Baylor. UCLA's had a lot of success. And then Blue Devils, obviously Duke. Tar Heels, they don't really fit into that, but North Carolina Tar Heels, they are fierce animals with the horns. So if a team has, a fierce mascot, they're blue, and or they're a cat, they have a good chance to win. Other mascots, such as birds, have done very well in the tournament. Kansas, Marquette, and Louisville come to mind as like the traditional bigger programs. Kansas Jayhawks have had a championship in 2022 and 2008, and they're normally a pretty good perennial contender, and they win a lot, and they also have the blue factor, so Kansas is always a good bet. Marquette also has blue, and they're the Golden Eagles, but they also have yellow, and they've done pretty well. They've never won the championship, but they've gotten very close a couple times. And Louisville won. They're not blue, but they have the red, and they're the bird, and they've also done very well. And St. Peter's is just for my enjoyment. St. Peter's Peacocks, they had that Cinderella run, and they were blue, and they had a bird. So normally, if it's a being, the team is going to do pretty well mascot-wise, and if they're blue, that's an extra. And if they're a 1 through 4 seed, they're more likely to make the Final Four. In terms of national champion, number 1 seed with blue mascot, and that's normally it. Now, whether you choose by mascot stats, colors, seeding, or names, or any other reason, typically it's a good idea to pick a 1 seed or close to it, with blue or animal being the mascot. So that's at least going to be my strategy. I picked Arizona Wildcats. They did have the cat in them, but they did not have blue. I would say is a primary color, but it wasn't as close. And they got close. So Illinois was a tough one. I guess they do have blue too. I'm going off on tangents. Anyway, that's it for the Weird Sports Show. I hope you get to use these bracket tips for next year. I know it seems like a long way away, but it will help you in the future, hopefully. And I've signed off today. Thanks for listening, and like and subscribe below. The channel's growing, weirdos, so hopefully you guys have a great weekend and enjoy the rest of your April.